That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
All you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
Welcome to Around the Ring, episode 39 for today, Monday, October 19th, 2015. I'm your host, Dave Brown. Big thanks again to Michael from WrestlingExpress.net for joining us last week. Had a lot of fun, and I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Make sure to check out his website, WrestlingExpress.net, for lots of good commentary on what is going on in the wrestling world, and highly suggest that he's a super nice guy. And hey, don't forget to check out the Kings of Wrestling over at kowempire.wordpress.com. They're doing some revamps on some stuff, got a great website going on, so check them out, give them some love, and you might even be able to hear this show on there again from time to time, so that'd be freaking awesome. Okay, so a lot going on this week. Actually, we got a lot to kind of talk about and cover. Last Sunday, since we did the show last Sunday instead of on Monday, we did not talk about the New Japan Pro Wrestling pay-per-view that they had, which was the New Japan Kings of Pro Wrestling. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. I watched, a good chunk of it over the weekend. We're also going to talk about, the normal stuff. We got some abysmal Raw stuff to talk about. Really good episode of NXT. Another good episode of Ring of Honor. We're going to have a flashback for WCW Monday Nitro from September 25th of 1995, the 4th episode. And also, I got a chance to watch the Sting Into the Light documentary. That DVD just came out, and I've watched the first documentary, which is on the first disc. So I've watched it in its entirety, and we'll talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the Table for Three WCW Legends that was on this week. But let's go ahead and start off with Raw. So Raw this week was a show. We started out with Kane backstage on a speakerphone call with Triple H and Stephanie. They're telling him that they're going to be late. Kane's in charge. So Kane makes a lumberjack match for himself against Seth Rollins for the main event. Dean Ambrose comes out for an in-ring promo. Ambrose was super over. And this was in Chicago, by the way. Ambrose says he's looking for a fight. Randy Orton comes out, who was also very over. At Hell in a Cell, it looks like Ambrose and Orton are going to face Luke Harper and Braun Strowman. They're setting up some heat between Orton and Ambrose over who will kind of take lead on the team. Then comes out the New Day, which is the New Day makes everything so much better. And then Ambrose's reaction, his facial expression when to Big E was just freaking awesome. So there's, jaw-jacking, and then Kane gets on the Tron and says that, look, they're not in charge, that he is, and he sets a match. So opening match of the night was Dean Ambrose and Randy Orton against the New Day. New Day wins after Kofi got a roll-up on Orton, which happened after Orton was shoved into Ambrose. This was, okay, let's be honest. New Day was out there. It was fun. New Day equals fun every single time. The best things on Monday Night Raw right now, the absolute, without a shadow of a doubt, best thing on Raw each and every week, quite possibly the only thing worth watching on Raw most weeks, is the New Day. Whatever they're doing, it's phenomenal. And this was another good one. We then had a Brock Lesnar Undertaker video package. Yay. We then have Nikki Bella versus Naomi. Before the match, though, there was a really nice vignette of the Sasha Banks Bayley match from NXT TakeOver Respect. We had some good "We Want Sasha" chants. At one point, there was a very small "You Can't Wrestle" chant kind of going on, and then at some point during the match, Brie Bella jumps up, grabs a mic, jumps on top of the announcer's desk, and starts screaming, "We want Sasha," trying to get a chant going. Sasha knocked her off the table. Hilarity ensued. Nikki got the win. I forget how. But they're really setting up Sasha as, they're trying to cause friction in Team Bad and for Sasha to eventually leave. If it was up to me, I would like to see the 4 horsewomen come together. But, it's not up to me, and we'll see what they do. It could go either way. It really could. But Sasha Banks is phenomenal, and anything to get her more time on TV would be great. We then had a vignette of Byron Saxton asking fans who they think is the most unconventional star. Most people said Paige. There were also quite a few Dean Ambrose. There was then Paige backstage with Byron, and Paige was like, "Oh, you think I'm the most unconventional? Great. Not the fact that I'm a good wrestler," type of thing. She went all bitchy heelish. It was great. I mean, Paige is a hell of a talent. And then we have what's easily the best match of the night, but also with the worst ending, such a frustrating match. The John Cena U.S. Open Challenge, which was answered by Dolph Ziggler. There was a great wrestling soup / Solid Monster sign that apparently got taken away because, WWE apparently don't like no podcasters. But, man, whoever had that sign, you have great taste, sir or ma'am. Cena got on the mic, talked about his love for the Allstate Arena and the fans of Chicago. Blah, blah, blah. At one point during the match, Cena did hit a really great freaking Ricky Steamboat-esque arm drag. I just saw that and I thought, wow, that was impressive. So the match is going on, and then all of a sudden the crowd is staring off into the crowd. And Ziggler gets out of the ring, Cena grabs a mic, and literally just stops the match and says, "Hey, this guy over here proposed to his girlfriend. She said yes." And which the crowd burst into yes chants, followed by "she said yes" chants. So that was some nice ad-libbing there on Cena's part. One point, Cena had Ziggler in an STF, which Ziggler reversed into a sleeper hold. That was a pretty sweet move. Then Cena reversed the sleeper hold into an AA attempt. There was a top rope DDT by Ziggler, and of course Cena had to kick out because, he's fucking Superman. Ziggler was doing a great Shawn Michaels in the corner, getting ready for a super kick. Ziggler reversed an AA into a Famouser. That was awesome looking. There was an eye rake by Ziggler at one point. And here comes the part that really pissed me off. So Cena kicked out of a beautiful super kick, and then Cena kicked out of the zigzag. Because, he's fucking John Cena. And then he kicks out of the zigzag, hits one AA, one of the shittiest moves ever in professional wrestling, and he got the win. I was so pissed watching this. I wrote in all caps in my notes as I was going along, "Fuck you, WWE." And, so I guess it's only Cena's finisher now, his and Sheamus's, that are the really protected ones. Because, there's all this talk of we're not going to have people kicking out of finishers all the time. Well then, if you're not going to have people kicking out of finishers, why the fuck have Ziggler hit the zigzag? Because you know what happens? It makes him look like a punk. It doesn't make Cena look strong. You don't need to do anything else to make Cena look strong. He's a roided up motherfucker. Nothing needs to be done to make Cena look any quote unquote stronger. The entire roster is his bitch, okay? So just fucking stop. And what sucks is this was a great match. And Cena could have won, and that would have been fine. Except he had to kick out of Ziggler's finish. And just to show, I'm this so much better than Ziggler. What I really hope with all this talk of Cena going away for a while, or at least, 6 weeks, I hope at Hell in the Cell they have a rematch, and Ziggler, I don't care if he cheats, I don't care what, he kicks his ass and takes that title away from him. Because I'm just so fucking sick of John Cena. And you know what? I can only imagine the people who've been consistently watching wrestling for the last 10 years, unlike me, who just restarted back up in the last few years. I've been consistently watching again for the last couple of years, and I'm sick to death of John Cena. I can't imagine you poor bastards who've been watching this dumbass for 10 years. And again, it's not his fault, other than apparently he does play some Hogan-esque politics in the back. It's the way he's booked. But come on, for fucking Christ's sake, WWE. I mean, Okay, so then we had the Dudley Boys versus the Ascension. This was a squash match. The Dudleys hit a Doomsday Device and then into a 3D. I think they should have just ended it with the Doomsday Device. They're in Chicago, for Christ's sake, a home of the Road Warriors. I mean, it was a nice, tip of the hat to the Road Warriors, but still. We then had Neville and Cesaro versus King Barrett and Sheamus. I don't mind these 4 guys tagging, but this just is so sad. And I still am proposing that they set up at some point a Neville, Cesaro, Finn Balor faction. There was a good pop for Cesaro. It was nice to see the crowd still responding to Cesaro, even though he's getting shit on like crazy. One great spot was Cesaro gorilla pressed Neville over the top rope onto Barrett and Sheamus on the floor. Barrett and Sheamus got the win after there was a distraction and Barrett hit a bull hammer from the floor. And it just was sad. And it's just like, God, can we know you're trying to keep Sheamus in the upper echelons because he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, which is a huge fucking waste. And then they don't know what the hell to do with Barrett. And poor Neville has been in the doldrums since coming up from NXT. And Cesaro, the poor bastard keeps getting teased, man. Just shit or get off the pot with the guy, Stop pushing him and then pulling back. Pushing him and pulling back. At this point, that faction I proposed with Finn Balor, let's just have Neville and Cesaro go back to NXT. Be done with it, man. Set up a faction with Finn Balor down in NXT. Done. And where these guys can actually have great matches, be over as fuck, be appreciated, and go from there. We then had a Braun Strowman vignette. God, sorry, man, I'm losing my voice or something. That ain't good. And then we have Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. Reigns got on the mic, says that his feud with Bray Wyatt is all about the WWE title. He got the what treatment. This was just fucking awful. I mean, he did try to respond to the what treatment. He's like, what, y'all can't hear me? But it didn't work. There was a boring chant. And, I like that Reigns tried to acknowledge these chants, but it just didn't work, man. It was a borderline heelish promo, but what it really was just a bad fucking promo. And they did this man no favors. Had they just let him go out and just say, speak your mind, man. Here are a couple bullet points we want you to hit, but just talk. It was so scripted, and it just was so bad. Bray Wyatt cut a promo from the stage. Wyatt is a 10,000 times better talker than Roman Reigns will ever be. So, at the beginning of the match, Reigns actually looked kind of scared. Reigns got the win after a count-out. The match went outside the ring. He hit a Superman punch off the stairs. that sent Strowman over the announce table. After the match, the Wyatts hit the ring, and Roman left and then slapped Bray while he was in his follow the buzzards pose. Here's the deal with this match. Was overall boring. Had a couple of decent moments. But this was really boring. Braun Strowman is an imposing looking guy, but I don't think he's really ready to be in this upper mid-card level faction, let alone feud, that he's in. He's a scary looking dude, but he's got to start doing something, man. I mean, he's not that he's awful in the ring, he's just there. He's just this huge motherfucker. What's he do? Nothing. He's there. And Roman Reigns, for the love of God, man, what are you people doing to this poor guy? Here you've got a guy who can be a huge superstar for you for years to come, and you're completely screwing him. You're giving him shitty dialogue. You're just... Roman Reigns was over when he was in the Shield, and he was a silent badass. Let's take him back to that. I think it would work. And then we have probably the... the most controversial thing, I think, out of Raw this whole last week. The thing that's gotten talked about the most. Rusev versus Ryback. And the story of this match is they brought up the fact that Rusev and Lana are engaged. Because it was on TMZ. Ryback got the win in a very boring match. It was almost a squash. And then after the match, Summer Rae gets on the mic. It shows the TMZ story on the Tron. She was super pissed. Goes off on Ruru, as she likes to call him. Slaps him. Now, her part of it wasn't so awful. But the general assumption is that this is the end of the Rusev Ziggler Lana Summer feud. And if that is the case, thank you. And please be the end. But this is... Oh, God, I don't even know how much I want to get into this. There's a lot of talk about kayfabe, the death of kayfabe, the controversy. Rusev and Lana are apparently, according to some rumors, in the shitter because of this. But Lana had posted, I guess, a picture of them on one of her social media sites, who fucking knows which one. And eventually TMZ picked up on the story and ran it. And now some people, there's all sorts of theories. No one really knows what happened behind the scenes, but this killed this feud. Granted, it's a feud that needed to die because it was fucking awful, and it looks like Ziggler's already moved on to Cena, thank God, because he just needs to be doing something else. But there's all these questions about whether the loss of kayfabe is the death of wrestling, whether whether this was, how much this was Lana and Rusev's fault, how much this is WWE's fault. And there's wrestling is such a bizarre form of entertainment in that it tries so hard to blur the lines between reality and the fiction. There was a time, even when I was a kid, that it was not, everyone knew it was fake, but it wasn't talked about in that way. Kayfabe was still completely there, and it wasn't until really the mid-90s that those walls started to break down. Now, I personally don't have a problem at all with Lana and Rusev, doing this. That should they be a little more cognizant of what's going on in their stories with their characters? Probably. Does anyone really give a fuck? No. I mean, because you say that, but then you've got shows like Total Divas where they're completely going against character, and why not just get to the point where you just say, okay, man, if it's on Monday Night Raw, this is like a regular TV show, and expect out of these people what you expect out of regular actors. But no, some people freaked out. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this. All I know is this segment, besides Summer Rae actually doing a pretty good job of being super pissed, sucked. Rusev is going to be put on the bottom of the list. Even though he's a talented wrestler, he's going to get buried for a while. And, so is kayfabe dead? Should it be? Do we care? These are the questions that we should be pondering. Actually, the questions we should be pondering are how to fix the economy and to make sure that the folks that don't have enough money and food are able to make decent livings. But that's a whole other story. We then had Kalisto versus Kevin Owens. There's a really nice pop for Owens when he came out. Lots of KO shirts. And I love it when Owens trash talks to Michael Cole. It just cracks me up for some reason. Owens won after catching Kalisto when he came off the top rope and turned it into a powerbomb. At one point in the match, Kalisto did this DDT thing that was fantastic. And this was a good match for what it was. Kalisto can go. Kevin Owens is amazing. So it was a pretty good little match. And I truly believe they need to keep the Intercontinental title on Kevin Owens until WrestleMania. And this is the way I would... Let me fantasy book for a moment, if I may. You keep the belt on Owens. Owens is in the Royal Rumble. He's kicking ass. I mean, he's taking people out left and right. You're starting to think, holy shit, this guy might get it. And then one of the last entries, out comes Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn eliminates Kevin Owens. Of course, Sami will then get eliminated. And that sets up a feud between the two of them, which culminates at WrestleMania with Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental title. I couldn't think of a better way to book it, man. Which means, of course, the WWE won't do it that way, and they'll just screw it up. But that's what I think they should do. We then had Becky Lynch and Charlotte against Alicia Fox and Brie Bella. Paige was out on commentary. Natalya was out with Becky and Charlotte, so I guess they're now NBC. So we're naming groups after television networks now, which is probably a nice little tip of the hat, butt kissing to NBC Universal, which owns the USA Network and all that. Paige says during the thing, she said that Natty was trying to take her girls. So at one point there was some chaos, brawling. Brie hit a missile dropkick off the top rope and pinned Charlotte. Why? Fuck. I mean, if you want them to get a cheap win, do something, chair to the face, put a fucking missile dropkick? Really? And the only other thing that I really enjoyed during this, there was, at one point, Byron Saxton said something to Paige, and she just made this scrunched up face. It was fucking hilarious. But otherwise, Divas Revolution, yeah, it's petering out. Sorry, I had to get a sip of water. We then had Kane backstage on the phone again with Trips and Steph. Triple H says that Kane is not going to be in the main event. He says that he cannot be in there. Excuse me, God, sorry. So there's a Big Show and Seth Rollins backstage. The feed I was watching cut out a bit on this. Basically, Seth was trying to butter up Big Show. Big Show apparently left. Kane showed up, freaked Seth out. Yawn. And then the main event, we had Seth Rollins versus Demon Kane in a lumberjack match. The New Day were out as lumberjacks, and they were phenomenal. They were great. At one point, Seth Rollins tried to run into the audience, but Cesaro grabbed him. Thank God for a little bit of Cesaro. That was the only time the crowd seemed to get into this match. I mean, this is a Chicago crowd, one of the most notoriously rowdy crowds in wrestling history, and they gave zero fucks about this match. Seth hit a picture-perfect frog splash at one point to some chants of Eddie. They were, small. At one point, New Day pulled Kane out of the ring. Brawl ensued. Heels got Kane back into the ring. New Day was kind of directing traffic. Big E went to hit the splash when Kane did the sit-up thing. Babyfaces got into the ring. Brawl. Kane chokeslammed a few people. Tombstone Seth Rollins got the pin. So yeah, tonight is going to be the go-home show into Hell in a Cell. And, shit, I didn't even put together Hell in a Cell predictions. Damn. So, yeah, let's see. Who is going to be on Hell in a Cell this month? In a Cell 2015 card. See what Google tells me, because I have no freaking idea. Full card predictions. That was like a long fucking time ago. Card news. Okay, let's try this. We're going to the WrestlingInc.com website. WWE Hell in a Cell. Alright, so here is the card so far. Let's do some quick predictions. Start at the bottom. Dean Ambrose and Randy Orton versus Luke Harper and Braun Strowman. Yeah, I just don't even fucking care. I think there's some kind of fuck finish, which is going to set up an Orton-Ambrose feud, maybe. Who fucking cares? Intercontinental title match, Ryback versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is going to walk away as the winner. We then have the tag team title match, Dudley Boys versus the New Day. I really want the New Day to keep winning because, honestly, to me, with the Dudley's New Day feud, the only way to really give this a proper payoff is at TLC, to have them in a tables, ladders, chairs match. So that means we need the New Day to keep... Either we need a Dusty finish, or we need the New Day to just straight up cheat and then get put into the match at TLC. That's what I think needs to happen, because that's just the way it needs to go down. If the Dudleys are going to win the titles, it would be fitting for them to do it at the TLC pay-per-view. We then have the Divas title match. Nikki Bella challenging Charlotte. I think Charlotte's going to win. We've got Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt in the Cell for Hell in a Cell match. Apparently the Intercontinental match might actually be in the Cell. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think it deserves to be in the Cell, honestly, but... And actually, I'm pretty sure they did say that was going to be in the Cell. Why? Probably because they take the time to build the fucking thing and they want to get as much use out of it as possible. We then are going to have Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt in a Hell in a Cell match. I'm going with Bray Wyatt. I think Roman Reigns has got to lose this match. Roman Reigns needs to hit rock bottom before he can turn things around, and he needs to lose this match. Bray Wyatt needs this win. Then we've got the WWE World Heavyweight title match, Demon Kane versus Seth Rollins. If Demon Kane loses, Corporate Kane is no longer Director of Operations. To be completely honest, I don't care. I don't know on this one. I mean, they'll probably keep the belt on Seth Rollins. That way they can get rid of the Corporate Kane character, even though of everything in that angle, his whole dual personality thing has been the most entertaining. Which isn't saying a whole lot, but he's been kind of funny. Maybe they put the strap on Kane one last time, especially if he's getting ready to retire. I could see them doing that. It would have made more sense to put on Sting, but since Sting got fucked up in that last match, so yeah, I guess I'll go with Seth Rollins. Then we have the Hell in a Cell, Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker. If Brock Lesnar doesn't win this match, something's fucking wrong. That's all I gotta say. I know it's The Undertaker's match, but it's freaking Brock Lesnar. Undertaker can win if he, cheats, but how satisfying will that be? This is another one. I just don't really care that much about this match. I just kind of want it to be over with. Speaking of Brock Lesnar, tonight after Monday Night Raw, he will be appearing on the Stone Cold podcast on the WWE Network, so that should be pretty interesting. And it's been funny. Stone Cold's been advertised for Raw, then not advertised for Raw. Advertised for Raw, then not advertised for Raw. And I guess at this point, he won't be on Raw. But, who knows? So that is Hell in a Cell we're going to have next week. I'm just not... I don't care about this. This is Night of Champions I kind of enjoyed. There was stuff on that pay-per-view I was looking forward to. This I am not looking forward to at all. So there you go. Who fucking cares? One sec. So what else we've got? So that is Hell in a Cell. That's WWE. And that was pretty much kind of the worst of the week in wrestling. I'm going to get into I'm going to save the Table for Three, Sting Into the Light, and WCW Rivalries talk until right before I get to the flashback section, because since those all have to do with WCW, so we'll hold off on that. So let's go ahead and talk about some really good fucking wrestling shows that were on this week. NXT. So we started off with highlights from NXT TakeOver Respect. Bayley came down for an in-ring promo to Match of the Year chants, women's wrestling chants. Bayley's being just perfect Bayley. Alexa Bliss comes out with Blake and Murphy. She starts talking all fake, pseudo-nice to Bayley. "Oh, Bayley, you're so great. I love you." And then grabs the belt from Bayley and says that you are not a champion. This is not what champions look like. I'm what a champion looks like, kind of thing. And yeah, so eventually throws the belt back at Bayley. Alexa Bliss has found her niche, man. That girl is top notch as a heel. She was just such a waste as this cutesy pie little baby face. No, she needs to be the kind of bitchy pretty girl that's like, yes, I know I'm gorgeous, fuck you. It's just a bitchy, entitled high school princess. And with her jock friends, which are Blake and Murphy, at her side, it's perfect. It's a great setup. I think this is going to be a good feud. I'm looking forward to it. We then had the Samoa Joe Finn Balor backstage interview from after TakeOver when they were joined by William Regal. We had Joe challenging for the NXT title and Regal setting a number one contenders battle royal, which is on this last show, the one that we're talking about right now. We then had Ty Dillinger, Apollo Crews, and Rhino little backstage promos about the battle royal. The Vaudevillains had a match against Sawyer Fulton. And Angelo Dawkins, what the hell is with Fulton's hair, man? He's got some skunky looking mohawk thing. Man, these poor guys, they look like the biggest couple of jabronis ever. Vaudevillains got the win. It was a short match, but it was actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I like the Vaudevillains. We then had a backstage interview, Dawson and Dash with Devin Taylor, which is quite possibly one of Devin Taylor's last interviews. And this was actually really good. I shit on these two guys originally. I just thought they were just a couple of absolute jamokes. And they're winning me over. I really like them. And you know what? I liked Devin Taylor. Granted, she did some insipid interviewing and asked some really stupid questions, but she had some, pretty good chemistry with some of those folks. We then have highlights of the Asuka Dana Brooke match from TakeOver, followed by a video of Dana after the match getting medical attention, Asuka coming over and mocking her, and then Dana saying, "That was Asuka. I won, didn't I? I won." And Emma was like, "Yes, it's okay, dear." It was pretty good. Excuse me. We then have two debuts in one match. Evie from New Zealand, who's one of the up and coming women on the Indies, versus Nia Jax. One thing I did like is that Nia Jax come out, they acknowledge her Samoan background and that she's related to The Rock. The crowd was super into Nia Jax. She was very over. She won with a variation of the Rock Bottom, and she was, I won't say she was impressive, but she didn't suck. And so there's been a lot of talk about her and her appearance. Now, without mincing words, Nia Jax is a big lady. There's nothing wrong with that. The biggest problem, I think, with her is that she needs to be portrayed as this big badass. And her ring gear is god-awful. She's wearing this somewhat fluffy ring gear. And now that's not to say she needs to be, dressed like a beast or something. She can still have something that's sexy. But what she was wearing wasn't that. Her ring gear looked awful. She needs new gear desperately. She needs to come out and look like Awesome Kong. I mean, that's what this woman needs to be, because there's going to be a lot of potential there for her, and she's going to tear some people up. But yeah, the poor girl needs some new gear badly. But there's definitely potential there. Also, there was a lot of potential in Evie. And I think NXT has done a good job in bringing in some new people, because there was, with the departure of Sasha and Becky Lynch and Charlotte, there's kind of this fear that the women's division is now empty. You look around and it's, there's Bayley, there's Alexa Bliss, there's Carmella, and there's Eva Marie, and Dana Brooke and Emma. You're like, okay, that's kind of, it's not very deep. Then they bring in Asuka, who is just unbelievable. But then, they've got these indie girls that they've signed that they're going to kind of start out as enhancement folks, and they'll work their way up. I think Evie is going to be one of them. Peyton Royce is another one. Billie Kay is another one. And I think you're going to see they're going to become the next Sashas and Baileys and Charlottes. They're going to work their way up and kind of take in that role. We then have highlights of the Bayley-Sasha Banks match with some interview clips and whatnot. Then a couple more backstage Battle Royal promos, one from Tyler Breeze, one from Baron Corbin. There was then an Eva Marie promo from Paris. She is just a terrible talker. Now, apparently there was a story that from the weekend, she had some matches. She had a match with Bayley. That was apparently her best match yet, and the two of them really clicked. And the crowd was chanting, "Eva's learning." I hope this girl can turn it around. I hope she can get better in the ring, and at least, be more than passable. That needs to happen. I'd rather her just be fired. No, I don't. I don't wish the bitch ill. Oh God, even just the way I said that sounded awful. I don't wish her any ill will. I just don't want her on my TV. Fine, be in Total Divas. Be a valet. Don't be a wrestler. And sure, certainly as fuck don't cut any more promos because you're awful at it. And then we had the main event. Number 1 Contenders Battle Royal. So we have in there Rhino, Dash and Dawson, Cass and Enzo, that drifter guy whose name is Elias Sampson, Apollo Crews, Ty Dillinger, the Hype Bros, Bull Dempsey, that bald guy that wears red camo pants, and is his name Steve? I think he. No, his name is Danny Burch. Blake and Murphy, Baron Corbin, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Tyler Breeze, Samoa Joe. Also, there was a dude in there with long brown hair and yellow trunks. I had no idea who the hell that was. Steve Cutler was in there, who I didn't notice at first, who I couldn't pick out from lineup to save my life. The interesting thing, Samoa Joe, Baron Corbin, and Rhino were the only ones to get real entrances. Everyone else was kind of in the ring. So here goes the elimination. Steve Cutler was out first. Danny Burch was out next. Elias Sampson was then out next. And Apollo Crews eliminated at least 2 of those guys, if not all 3. Johnny Gargano was eliminated by Crews. Crews just launched him over the top rope from the belly-to-back suplex position. It just looked awesome. Riddick Moss, who's apparently the dude with the long hair that I had no idea who was, who I thought maybe was Adam Rose. I didn't friggin' know. He was tossed out, and then Cass was eliminated by Dash and Dawson, who were then eliminated by Enzo to a huge pop, only to be stymied by Enzo being eliminated by Ty Dillinger. Ty Dillinger was then tossed out by Bull Dempsey. Bull Dempsey was thrown out by Rhino with some help from Corbin. Mojo Rawley was tossed out. Zack Ryder was thrown out by Baron Corbin, thank God. There was a bunch of Let's Go Tyler chants. Rhino was thrown out by Baron Corbin. Tommaso Ciampa was eliminated by Samoa Joe during the break, and so it came down to Samoa Joe, Tyler Breeze, Apollo Crews, Baron Corbin, and Blake and Murphy. I was very surprised that Blake and Murphy were there at the end. Blake and Murphy were eliminated by Joe. Tyler Breeze was also eliminated by Samoa Joe, and which was responded with a hearty round of boos. Boos rained upon Samoa Joe for throwing out Tyler Breeze, because Tyler Breeze was by far the crowd favorite in this match. Joe was then eliminated by Breeze. Joe was on the apron and trying to defend against some attack, and Breeze grabbed his feet and pulled him out. To which erupted "Thank you, Tyler" chants. That was great. And it was also very unexpected. I actually kind of jumped in my seat when that happened. There were then some "We Want Tyler" chants, and it came down to Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. They went back and forth for a while. Actually, a really nice series of back and forth. And Crews eventually got the win after he hit 3 enziguris in a row and then a clothesline sending Corbin over the top. This was a really good battle royal. Really freaking good. And, I think most folks going into this would just assumed that Samoa Joe was going to get the win. He challenged Finn Balor. Finn Balor accepted. And it would just seem like a foregone conclusion. Joe's going to get the win. Well, no, he didn't. So that was kind of cool. And, so Apollo Crews is going to be challenging Finn Balor. And I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be some fan-fucking-tastic matches. So, a few bits of NXT news, which, God, I love NXT. First of all, Sami Zayn made an appearance at the Evolve 49 pay-per-view this weekend. It was on Saturday, I believe. He didn't show up during the actual broadcast, but afterwards, and there's video out there of it, he got into the ring. He came out to his own music from NXT. Introduced himself. He said there's an indie-sized hole in his heart, and he missed this. He talked up Johnny Gargano and said, Gargano, you need to get the Evolve Championship. So I think Gargano's going to have a future with WWE. Speaking of, his tag team partner, Tommaso Ciampa, has signed a deal with NXT. So he has officially signed a WWE contract. He is now NXT's. That's great. He was in the Battle Royal for a long time, and I like the way he's been used in NXT. I think he's a really good wrestler. I first saw him in Ring of Honor, and he was basically playing this that he was a crazy ass, and I like it. I like his character the way it's working now. But speaking of Evolve, WWE.com highlighted Evolve this week, and a really nice article talked about 5 people from Evolve you need to keep your eyes on. And there have also been reports that WWE is going to be working with a lot of the indies as kind of feeder systems, as developmental systems for NXT and for WWE. And really, I don't think there's going to be these major contracts that say, okay, you're like the new OVW or FCW, because they've got NXT for that. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to keep their eyes on the indies, on Evolve, especially on PWG, on Ring of Honor, on Lucha Underground, who they're already eyeing a few people from Lucha Underground. Keep an eye on what's going on and see about signing these guys. And, that's the way you should do it, man. You should bring up those people. Because, look, there are going to be some people you're going to be able to build from scratch. Really, John Cena is someone they kind of built from scratch. Sure, he spent about 5 minutes on the indies in California. But really, John Cena was a WWE creation. Randy Orton was a WWE creation. Dolph Ziggler was a WWE creation. And right now, Baron Corbin is a WWE creation. But that's not always going to happen. It's not always going to work. So you have to have people coming in who have experience from other places. And that's why NXT is so freaking good right now. Is you've got these people that have come in from all of these indies, and you've got these these homegrown guys. I'm not sure how much Tyler Breeze was in the indies. He definitely seems like a guy who spent some time in the indies. I've never really researched his background, but you've got these group of guys: your Sami Zayns, your Kevin Owens, your Finn Balor's, your Kentas, your Hideo Itami's, your Asukas. Becky Lynch, Paige, and ladies that come from these indies, and they make NXT something super special. And to me, I watch Raw and I watch the pay-per-views, but what keeps me a fan of just WWE as a company is NXT. Because time and time again, in the WWE product, they just screw things up. But in NXT, it works out really well. Two last bits of NXT news. One is there's been a lot of talk that Tyler Breeze is going to be heading to the main roster. Some of that has been disputed, some of it hasn't. I don't know. And there's another story that's been a bit disputed, is that Colin Cassidy might be out of action for a while with a broken leg. He did some meet and greets but didn't wrestle. Apparently he might have hurt his leg. I hope not, because Colin Cassidy is fantastic. Now, granted, it did him some good not having Enzo at his side for a while when Enzo got his broken arm. So maybe it would be good for Enzo to not have Big Cass at his side for a little while. We'll see. And that's kind of it for NXT. So let's go ahead and jump into Ring of Honor for this week. And Ring of Honor for this week, we had start out with a match, ACH versus Matt Sydal, match 4 in their best of 5 series. Sydal got the win. This was a great fucking match, man. It was everything you would expect from Matt Sydal and ACH. Just go watch it. After the match, the Addiction came out and attacked ACH and Sydal. Went to break, came back. The Addiction was in there for an in-ring promo. Frankie Kazarian started off just talking about how they've been screwed. Oh, they were in Dallas. That reminds me. And at one point he said, yeah, Texans believe in justice. He's like, you don't believe in bathing or education, but you believe in justice. I thought that was hilarious. Christopher Daniels gets on the mic and says that shame on the person who interfered in their match at All-Star Extravaganza in the KRD mask. Shame on Ring of Honor for letting the injustice stand. And they said the Kingdom needs to come out and give us our belts back. Well, Kingdom didn't come out, but the All Night Express did. And they jaw-jacked back and forth. It was freaking great. I mean, my review of Ring of Honor this week is going to be fairly short because it was just fucking awesome. There's not a whole lot to say. I didn't take a whole lot of notes because I was sitting back and just enjoying it. Just like you should with these shows. We then had Silas Young come out with Beer City Bruiser, whoever the fuck this guy is, and the boys. And he starts talking about how, your boys need to learn how to be men. You need to stop wearing all this frou-frou Dalton Castle crap. And then he started beating up on the boys. And it turned into a match with the boys against Young and Beer City Bruiser. It was just basically a beating. And Silas Young got the pin after his spinny cutter move thing, which I can't remember the name of right now. The thing that really took me out of this is this beer guy just looks like a joke. Just remember when WCW had guys like Roadblock and Shark, or WWE had Earthquake and God, the natural disasters, those kind of. Yeah, that's what this guy looks like. Just a fucking joke. We then had the main event. Watanabe challenging Jay Lethal for the World Television title. Lethal super freaking over. And this was a great freaking match. Lethal got the win after there was a distraction from Truth Martini, which led to a low blow and lethal injection. And yeah, they were standing there gloating with this kind of who's next mentality, which the crowd responded with AJ Styles chants, and Lethal left. And I think, AJ Styles should be the one. I'm pretty sure he's the number one contender right now. If anyone's going to be taking out Lethal and winning that title, it needs to be AJ Styles. They need to have a few matches first. But I think AJ Styles is the one to do it. He hasn't won the Ring of Honor title yet. Let's get that under his belt. And then so that was just great. And speaking of, tying in Ring of Honor and New Japan, folks, we had New Japan Pro Wrestling's King of Pro Wrestling event, which was this last Sunday, so a week ago today. It was a 4-hour event. I did not watch all of it. I did watch parts of it, though. Kevin Kelly from Ring of Honor and Matt Striker from Lucha Underground were on commentary. The opening match had a whole bunch of people in it. Bengala was in it, Jushin Thunder Liger, a few other people. But the thing, and I didn't watch the whole match, but what stood out to me is as these people were coming into the ring, who was there? None other than C.J. Parker. Oh, yeah. And he was, I forget what his new ring name or probably his previous pre-WWE ring name. But he had shaved his beard, and it was just funny seeing him. He's all babyface looking with that grizzly haircut that he has and the dreadlocks, Bob Marley action going on. So the matches I did watch, we had Roppongi Vice challenging Red Dragon for the IWGP Junior Tag Team Championship. This was an outstanding match. One thing I realized though watching this, Rocky Romero looks a whole hell of a lot like Santino Marella. He just does. It's crazy. Red Dragon got the win. What was funny about this match is, and watching this pay-per-view and seeing the just very different styles between wrestling in Japan and wrestling in the United States, but there was a lot of slapstick comedy stuff with these two teams. There was the whole, at one point, one of the Roppongi Vice guys was sitting on the mat, and Kyle O'Reilly was doing the run in the ropes to get up momentum to kick him in the face, and he runs up, stops, and just slaps the guy, and it was just hilarious. Kevin Owens did that on Raw this week. I think again he did something into like a chin lock or something. That cracks me up when people do that stuff. Great freaking match. The next one I watched was Matt Sydal versus Kenny Omega for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Cody Hall was in Omega's corner. They're both Bullet Club members. And just at some point, I forget what the conversation was, but Matt Striker said, so hang on, someone in wrestling lied? Oh, it cracked me up. Kenny Omega got the win. This was a fantastic match with tons of great spots. Go watch it, man. Find it, watch it. We then had Nateo versus Tanahashi. I'm terrible with some of these names. The winner of the match gets the New Japan equivalent of the Money in the Bank contract with a IWGP title shot at Wrestle Kingdom. Get the main event Wrestle Kingdom. So, yeah, it's a pretty big deal. This was a great freaking match. Tanahashi got the win. When Naito came out, he came out with someone else with a mask on and a business suit, black suit. Turned out that the other person that came out with him was Watanabe. This was a really good match, pretty slow at times, but it was a very good match. And then the main event was AJ Styles versus Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. This was just a thing of beauty, man. I mean, what do you say? It's fucking AJ Styles and Okada, for Christ's sake. Two of the absolute best wrestlers in the world. Okada got the win, so it sets up for Wrestle Kingdom, Okada versus Tanahashi. Okada's never beaten Tanahashi at a Wrestle Kingdom, and so I think they're setting that up as a passing of the torch type of thing. And Okada did an in-ring promo after the match. Tanahashi came out. The only thing, I wish I knew what the hell they were saying, because it looked intense, it looked interesting. Unfortunately, I don't know Japanese. The other takeaway I have from this is that Kevin Kelly and Matt Striker were excellent on commentary. They were so good in these matches. Both of these guys are great. I mean, if you really think about it, The shows that have the best commentary in pro wrestling today, at least on American television, are Ring of Honor and Lucha Underground. You take one half of each of those teams, you put them together, and they mixed really, really well. So let's hope that we see more of that. So, real quick, speaking of Lucha Underground, something I forgot to mention in the NXT part of the show. Apparently, WWE and NXT are interested in Angelico and Ricochet, i.e. Prince Puma. So yeah, there's just that. I would love to see those guys in NXT, but only if they stayed just in NXT. But then again, man, Lucha Underground is so good. I would hate to see them leave Lucha Underground, especially without, Angelico. Let's bring Matt Cross, i.e. Son of Havoc, and Ivelisse with them. Let's just bring those three up. And that is it for the new programs for this week. And let's go ahead, before we get into the flashback, I want to talk a little bit about some of the other WWE stuff that I watched this week. First of all, we had the WWE rivalries, Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. This is Season 2. The first episode was Lita versus Trish Stratus. I haven't watched that one yet, but I had to watch the Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. One thing I hadn't realized is how long their rivalry had gone on. I hadn't realized that years and years earlier they had wrestled significantly prior to Steamboat heading to WWE. Prior to WrestleMania 3. This was fantastic. I mean, these documentaries that WWE puts together, they're awesome. So there's a lot of insight into these matches. Ricky Steamboat really is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and his chemistry with Ric Flair was incredible. So yeah, he just go watch it and then go watch these matches. We then had the Table for Three for this last week with WCW legends. We had Sting, DDP, and Vader. I'm pretty sure this was recorded before WrestleMania. And this was super interesting. It was DDP kind of led the group, and it's so far in these you kind of see that there's one personality that kind of takes over and leads things. We can think of this person as the leader fish or the pilot fish. This was something I learned about at a workshop thing we did at my job recently, where in groups you often have multiple people that kind of just naturally take the spot of leader. In fish schools, you've seen those films of schools of fish that seem to move in unison. Well, apparently scientists have learned that there is one fish that leads the whole thing. So you have this one fish that determines where you're going. And in Table for Three, there's almost always been a personality that just kind of becomes the one to lead the conversations. The Dean Ambrose, Cesaro, Kevin Owens one, Cesaro kind of took that role and he led the conversation. In this particular one, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, absolutely led the conversation, and it was really, really interesting. Vader didn't talk as much as the other two, but it was interesting. Vader was from that pre-Nitro WCW, which I think often doesn't get enough love, especially on the WWE Network. The WWE Network really needs to go in and put in those old WCW Saturday nights and the Saturday morning shows that they did that went all the way back into the Crockett years and the Mid-South, or no, it wasn't Mid-South, the Mid-Atlantic. And they really need to start putting all of that content on the network, because there's so much great NWA and WCW storylines that happened over the years that we're just not seeing because they were before that. And yeah, we've got all the pay-per-views from those time frames, but a lot of times you don't have the context to those pay-per-views. So that is something I would love to see them add-on, and I would watch it. I would watch it Saturday nights every week. And then we have the Sting Into the Light DVD that came out. There was a first look special that they did on the network that I watched that I really enjoyed, and it made me really want to see the rest of this. So I got my hands on the documentary, and I've watched the documentary and part of the second disc. I didn't realize when I first started that I just thought it was just matches. So I fast forwarded through stuff before I noticed there was actually more interviews and documentary type stuff. But the layout of this is, it's all about telling the story of Sting coming to WWE, doing the 2K15 stuff, meeting with WWE, signing his contract. There's a lot of just kind of following him around, listening to his stories. And then there was these moments where they had him in his home watching some of his matches on the WWE network and talking about them. And there were really 4 matches that were highlighted. The first Clash of the Champions, that 45-minute draw against Ric Flair, which I vividly remember watching as a kid. That was in 1988. And that was a brilliant move. That was on TBS Live, going up right against WrestleMania. And they put that together because Vince had been screwing with them. And so they said, okay, fine, watch this. The next match was the Great American Bash match against Ric Flair, where Sting won his first world title. Another great freaking match. Then had the Starrcade 97 match against Hulk Hogan. And there was a lot talking about the build-up of that, which is one of the greatest build-ups of all time. Followed by a relatively disappointing match, and it was interesting getting some insight into that, because they had interviews with Bischoff, they had interviews with Hogan, and obviously Sting, and Bischoff both talked about how there was a lot of politicking going on, and about how the finish to the match was really up in the air. And he was nervous because no one really knew what was going to happen. And Bischoff mentioned the fact that Hogan really didn't want to do the favors. He didn't want to do the job to Sting. Go figure. But interestingly, Sting talked about and many times through this whole thing, how Hogan was very pro Sting. He would do lots of stuff to help Sting out. So they apparently had a good working relationship. And then the other one was the last match on Nitro. Also against Flair, and the different emotions that were going on. And he even mentioned, he's like, I thought this was it. I thought this was done. I was done. And he thought that, it was going to go away. He figured he didn't want it to end like this, but that it might, he said. And then he got a phone call. And he ended up working with TNA for 7-8 years. And he actually mentioned TNA. Now, they didn't mention the WWA, which was out of Australia, I believe, which eventually, I think, got bought out by TNA. Which is where a lot of the WCW guys went right after WCW folded. Luger went there. Oh, God, excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh, I never get enough sleep, But yeah, mention of TNA on a WWE product, I was very, very shocked. This was an excellent documentary. And Sting is a guy I've always liked, and always kind of saw and thought of as, this is a really decent guy. And, he was very humble. And you can tell he's not an egotistical person. He's a humble guy. He's a laid-back guy. And they did in the documentary talk about WrestleMania and having his WrestleMania moment. And he mentioned that, he said, what, this feels like this might be it. This might be my last match. This really feels like it could be. Of course it wasn't. Maybe it should have been. But he said, about doing the job to Triple H, said that's how you go out. And that's how you do it. And he was so happy just to have been there. I just, as much of a travesty of justice as that was, I think he went into it with the idea of, hey, this is probably going to be my last match. I have no problem doing the favors. Going out, doing that, which I think is the wrong thing to have done. But I had a very high opinion of Sting going into this. I have an even higher opinion of him now. What a just decent human being. Alright, let's get to the final part of the show, which was the flashback. We're talking WCW Monday Nitro, episode number 4, from September 25th of 1995. We have the commentary team of Eric Bischoff, Steve Mongo McMichael with his saddled up little mini dog, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. The night opens up with Alex Wright versus Disco Inferno. I never liked Disco Inferno. I always thought he was a joke. Wright did a great flying crossbody over the top onto the floor at one point. And one thing I will say watching this is Alex Wright was a whole lot better than I ever remembered him. I just remembered him as being a jabroni, and he was really good. Bischoff kept talking about in this interview that was going to happen with Hulk Hogan later in the night, and he really needed to shut up about it because it was very annoying. Alex Wright won with a backslide. Surprisingly good match. We've finally had the backstage promo with Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart. Hogan was in a neck brace. He challenged the Giant to a monster truck match and then a title match. It was really fucking stupid. That's all I gotta say. Mean Gene was in the ring. And then they did a replay of the Randy Savage Lex Luger segment from the previous week. Savage was in the ring. Luger comes out. Luger challenges Savage to a match next week for his title shot, and that if he loses, Luger will leave WCW. Savage accepts, so that's one I'm looking forward to watching this next week. We then had Kurosawa against Sergeant Craig Pittman. At one point, Kurosawa dumped Pittman over his shoulder onto the floor in a way that just looked really bad. I truly thought Pittman had broken his neck. It looked just terrible. And, listen to this commentary. Eric Bischoff on commentary is definitely where Michael Cole learned to do what he does. Kurosawa won with a bridging German suplex. We then had Mean Gene in the ring again, this time with Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. Pillman's rocking the sexy fanny pack. And there was a lot of throwing up the Four Horsemen sign. It was a good interview. I mean, Arn Anderson, it's fucking Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. It's going to be good. We then had a replay of the Taskmaster attacking Savage on the set of Baywatch. We then have Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, against Randy Savage. So I always wanted to know, Kevin Sullivan was wearing this eyebrow face paint stuff at the time. I never understood it. What was up with that? Bruce Beefcake, i.e. the Zodiac, came out. The match ended in a DQ when Savage shoved the ref. The Giant came out, chokeslammed Savage. I tell you what, man, the Giant, a.k.a. the Big Show, back in the WCW days, he had the best looking chokeslam in the industry of all time, period. That thing looked wicked. Some jobbers came out to try to help and got destroyed. Alex Wright came out. He got destroyed. Luger came out and was standing over Savage. And Sullivan looked ecstatic, thinking that I guess Luger was about to join them. The Giant attacked Luger. Sullivan looked pissed at the Giant for attacking Luger. And there was... Luger's kind of left laying in the ring. We then had the main event, which was Lex Luger against Ming. And the match started off, Luger was still pretty messed up. And man, I tell you what, the one thing that really kept taking me out of a lot of these matches is how Eric Bischoff kept talking about Hulk Hogan. And it just really reminds me a lot of how they do things now on Raw, and it was just annoying as hell. Ming won after hitting Luger with a spike, a piece of metal he had stuffed in his trunks. Pretty good match. I always liked Lex Luger, especially in WCW, and I always thought Ming was awesome. The show then ended with the commentary team kind of recapping the show. Heenan mentioned WWF and was bleeped. Mentioned about Luger leaving WWF. And then they gave a preview of what was coming the next week, and also a little bit about, I think, what was going to be coming up on WCW Saturday Night. And that was Nitro. So that's pretty much it, man, for this week on Around the Ring. Thank you for listening in. Make sure to check us out. You can hear us each and every week, a number of different places. We got our page on Spreaker. You can hear us on Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio. You can subscribe to us in the iTunes if you've got those fancy-dancy Apple devices. You can hear us on the Spark Radio Network. We're going to be heard again on Kings of Wrestling Empire, so you can check us out all those places. And our homepage, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. You can follow us on Twitter at aroundtheringok. Jump over to the Facebook, give us a like. Around the Ring OK is it's facebook.com/aroundtheringok. And if you want to, send me an email if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. The email is aroundtheringok@gmail.com. So I kind of use the same handle there. Try to make it easier, mostly for myself, because I hate having to remember different logins for shit. It's awful. And that's going to do it. Next week, we will talk about Hell in a Cell, and hopefully it won't suck balls. So until then, as Jerry Springer always says, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view. And believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Damn! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.